The Liverpool Playhouse has had a number of extremely talented and hugely ambitious artistic directors over the years. One of the ones who didn't stay for very long, back in 1985-86, was Jules Wright. She had a pretty hard act to follow because she stepped in after the so-called Gang of Four, which was the mixture of Chris Bond, Bill Morrison, Willie Russell and Alan Bleasdale, and you can imagine how tough it was to follow them. She also came at a time of financial stringency. We had a Tory government in government at the time which was not very keen on the arts. Budgets were being cut, actors' wages were being frozen, and there simply wasn't the money for the big budget kind of productions that we see these days. Just before Jules came, she had set up something called the Women's Playhouse Trust, which was there to champion the work of new women writers, and she continued to do that when she came to Liverpool. In fact, she put on new plays by Debbie Horsfield, Winsome Pinnock, and various other very talented young women. But I think it's fair to say that neither the Playhouse board or indeed the Liverpool audiences ever quite understood what Jules was about. She was Australian, she was extremely bright, she was fiercely articulate, and she knew exactly what she wanted, and she wasn't afraid to tell you what she wanted. And that was to put on plays which were relevant to the city she was now working in, and which were new plays insofar as she could find them. And indeed, in her last season here, I think she put on 13 homegrown productions, of which 7 were completely new plays by new writers. She didn't stay here very long. I think she sensed that perhaps Liverpool wasn't quite ready for her. And after a year or so, she went back to great success in London at the Royal Court, where she'd come from, and later at the Wapping Project, which she set up herself and which was a huge success. Jules Wright died a couple of weeks ago, aged 67, far too early. I think she would have been, and I'm sure she was, extremely proud and happy to know that the Playhouse was now in the hands of not one, but 2 extremely talented women. I suppose there probably aren't many of us now who remember her from those times 30 years ago. But for me, she did play quite a key part in the development of the Playhouse in the short time she was here. And I, for one, very much recognise and value the contribution she made, and I shall miss her very much.
It's the opening night and they're lighting the lights. The orchestra is tuning to make sure they sound right. It's time to start our show tonight.
There's always a heavily guarded front door and a lonely unmanned back door. Besides, this was once my castle.
You are Robert Locksley.
I am he. I may walk with the common pheasant, and I do share his sweat, his pain, and his rank scent.
So you're the director of
Yes.
Yep's Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the production?
Yes, it's quite a mad little thing. It is out in Prince's Park, and this is the one time in the year where all of the Yep groups work together. So we've got some of our littlies, sort of 11-year-olds right the way up to 22, and the guys that we spoke to today are doing sort of the main cast, but then we have a chorus of about 30, 35 young people who, are between them the sheriff's guards or the merry men. So what we do quite a lot of sort of stage combat stuff with them. So at certain points during the show, there's quite these big eruptions of
brilliant.
silly, daft play fighty things. So it's kind of a little bit Monty Python-esque in style. It's lots of girls playing boys playing girls in beards and stuff. And so it's very silly and a lot of fun. So about an hour's worth of family entertainment around Prince's Park.
Well, I'm playing it, obviously I'm a girl, so but I'm not playing it as a girl. I'm playing it as a boy, so it's kind of that stereotypical, comedy effect of like you go into pantomimes and see like Peter Pan, you got the woman playing the main character, that kind of same feel about it. Yeah. But should be exciting to do. Challenge. I get a beard, which is like something I've always wanted.
Is there a moustache involved in that?
Hopefully, I'm hoping for that. Yeah. So
Brilliant. And Maid Marian, is she kind of your traditional Maid Marian, or?
think she's a bit more scouts on the scout side. But yeah, of course she's in love with Robin and whatever, but she gets to dress up as a man as well, which should be fun. So we both get a turn of being a man.
And do you get a beard as well?
Yeah. I hope so anyway.
We've been waiting for this for a long time.
Anyway.
You're the alternate cast, aren't you?
Yeah.
So we've got Robin again and Maid Marian. Now, obviously, I guess you've been able to put your own twist on it. How would you describe your Maid Marian?
I suppose she's quite feisty, not a damsel in distress.
Great. And Robin?
Yeah,
Because you're not a woman. So.
I'm not a woman. I'm playing here Robin as in like he's like a clumsy, like a drunken sort of, like a sort of Jack Sparrow sort of type character. That's how I'm gonna start. Like that's how I'm like making the process of him at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! So it's almost kind of worth going to see the show twice, isn't it? Really?
Yeah,
definitely.
It's going to be two different shows.
Yeah.
And is it the case that the entire cast is doubled, or is it just the main characters?
It's like
There's a few characters doubled, but then some of the cast will be the same.
Oh, okay.
It's to give like people opportunities,
Yeah.
equal opportunities to be the role.
And do you guys get to be in the ensemble when you're not playing?
Yeah, yeah.
Go and then break it at the
Okay.
end. Yeah.
As the,
It's a family show.
as the lords of these lands and my pheasants will not be starveling and famished as they are now.
Have you directed any of the outdoor shows before?
I haven't actually. No, Tomo and Katie have done the two previous ones, so this is my first time doing it. But it's one of my favourite things of the year because it's quite a nice, sort of relaxed family, feel to it, which is great. It's a bit more knockabout than some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And what have been the challenges? Because obviously you've got lots of people there to deal with, and if you're doing stage combat on such a large scale, that's quite a feat.
It is. It's just a lot of time rehearsals, and I think it's just figuring out how people move around, because we basically do sort of a lap of this lake, and it's about some people going one way and then popping up and hiding behind trees. So it's all quite logistically a bit of fun.
So do you enjoy working outdoors?
Yeah, I love it. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
From your regular theatre. So.
How much time do you get? It's in Princess Park, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much time do you get to rehearse in the park before the show?
2 days.
2 days.
About 3 hours.
It's different.
I've never done it before, so
Oh, okay.
I'm a bit nervous about like projection and stuff, and whether I can
Yeah.
like film an outside space.
And do you know what audience capacity you're expected to get?
I don't know.
We always get like I'd always say like 80 to 100. We always get like a attendant. But it's like it's so different to like a theatre audience, because in ways the most like cringy bits or the cheesy bits, the audience love it, but you think in yourself it doesn't come across as that, but the audience seem to love it.
Oh, Peddler, what deep eyes you've got! Oh, the better to see you with, my dear. Oh, Peddler, what lovely teeth you've got! Oh, the better to meet you with. Oh.
And how long have you been rehearsing them? When does this process start?
We started about a month ago with the script, and
not massive time.
No. We sort of half script, half devised, and it really comes together this week and next, really. So with the ensemble coming in to the rest of the group. So
Fantastic. And is it promenade or is it just in one place in the park?
Promenade. So
Fantastic.
you do like a walk around space like to each
brilliant.
scene.
Which is fantastic for an audience, I think, isn't
Yeah.
it? But I guess has its own challenges for you guys as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's especially like being like going to be Robin and Maid Marian, like in the previous ones, watching it, because you've always just been sat there in the back with the other shows, but now we're going to be going around and like running around. It's going to be a while.
You'll be fit anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Would you recommend to other young people interested in theatre to join? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It gives you so many opportunities and stuff. And
I think if you really want to be in the industry as well, they treat you like when you do the shows, you're treated like a professional show. It's not like a kids youth. It doesn't feel like youth theatre. It feels like a show. Like I'll always say, I'm in a show, but I won't be like, I'm in a youth show. I'm in a show.
Brilliant. If you were to sum up Robin Hood in 3 words, then everyone comes and watches it, what would it be?
Fun, mad, and then whatever the weather is, like warm.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
A bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
Why should we come and see it then? $1 million question.
Because it's a lovely thing to do on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon out in the park. You can bring a little picnic thing and watch a lot of silliness for about an hour. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Sold.
Brilliant.
Welcome back to part 2 of Arts Alive Theatre. I'm delighted to be at the Everyman Theatre with some of the cast of Arthur Miller's The Hook. Hi Tom, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So you play Sleeper in The Hook, don't you? For our viewers who don't know anything about the production, can you set the scene for us a little bit?
Yeah. There's loads going on there. It's a really exciting play. It's set in the 50s on the Brooklyn waterfront. If anyone's seen the film On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, it's a very similar world to that. And it's about corruption on the docks. It's about corruption in the unions, how the mafia were running it at the time. It's all inspired by true events.
So you play Meathead.
Yeah.
How does he fit into that plot then?
He's one of the gang of longshoremen, which is looked after by Marty, our protagonist. Very early on in the play, he's not part of the gang, but one of the other gang leaders gets killed because we're being forced to overload our cranes when we're loading and unloading ships by the union bosses, and as a result, Barney, the gang leader, gets killed. Marty takes over, and I manage to join Marty's gang.
Okay.
Which is bad luck for Barney, but it's good luck for me.
So you play Dominic in this production. So can you tell us just a little bit about him to start us off?
He's kind of born and raised on the docks. He works on the docks now. He's a son of immigrant parents, or an immigrant father at least. And so, yeah, all he's really known is the docks and that way of life.
The lead of the play is a guy called Marty Ferrara. He's the protagonist, the guy that takes on the mafia, essentially, inspired by this Peter Panto guy. And my guy is a guy called Sleeper, he's one of the gang of the longshoremen, of the dock workers. So he's one of Marty's pals, one of his workers, and sort of is directly involved by association as Marty goes on his tirade, really, against the way of things. So my character and the other dock workers, we live through the danger of what Marty's doing. I think it was never made. It was written about 60 years ago, and it was shut down by the FBI at the time, because in America in the 50s, you had this whole era of McCarthyism and fear of communism and what have you. And this is a piece that it screams for revolution. Yeah. Totally. That's why I think it resonates particularly well here, because of Liverpool's massive connection to dock workers and, again, corruption. And then also Liverpool and New York dockers have stood in solidarity many times for many years. So it's great to do it here. But yeah, so Miller had written this screenplay. It was going to be made into a film, and he had Kazan all set to direct it, who later went on to direct On the Waterfront with Brando. Okay. This was about 3 years before, and it was all set to go, and then Miller and Kazan were summoned to a meeting with one of the heads of the studios in Hollywood, and they got there, and a member of the FBI was sitting there as well. And they said to him in no uncertain terms, this is too politically volatile for this time. This is not going to be made into a picture unless you make all the gangsters in the piece communist.
And there's lots and lots of passion in this play.
Yeah.
How did that feel, being part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a confusing place to be in terms of passions for these people, because there's a lot of anger going around, and as sort of people understand now, kind of anger and not really knowing who to be angry at a lot of the time, and who to really blame. And I think that's where you kind of get a lot of dispersed anger at immigrant groups, you know, people coming and taking jobs off us, and people coming from other part of the country, which I'm sure people will recognise now. But yeah, it really is, it's a very passionate play, Someone described it as kind of angry scream in the dark, which it kind of does feel like, there's this kind of people battling and just trying to grasp hold of something, and it kind of goes as a scream that starts. Miller described it as wanting to be like kind of a bullet tragedy, and once the explosion at the start, it just sets a chain of events that continue. And it does feel like that once it starts.
It's interesting that he said that, actually. Yeah, it does feel like that. And how have you found working on this? Is it something that's resonated with you personally, or?
Not. I don't have any actual family connections to it, but it's been fascinating working in Northampton and now Liverpool, and meeting people who do have personal connections with this type of environment, for very different ways. I mean, obviously, as we've mentioned before, the docks in Liverpool, but Northampton has many problems over the years. The decline of industry in the East Midlands, and they have problems with unemployment. They have problems with homelessness, and it's a story that's kind of been played out all over the country, and with the 0 hours contracts, and it's a play about people struggling to find work and to support their families, which all these guys are doing, and that presents them with a dilemma. The moment you start standing up for your rights, you're in serious danger of losing your livelihood.
It's very resonant with parts of our society today that a lot of people will feel. Like 0 contract hours or corruption in places or whatever. I think it's something that has a voice now. It's not just it's not just a very exciting museum piece. It's also got things to say and things to rage about. We don't learn in history often, do we? So, yeah.
And have you had, what's the reaction been like from the audiences then? Because obviously it has got a lot of tension in. Have you felt that being fed back?
Yeah, definitely. What's really interesting is coming from Northampton to here is a very different reaction. I think our space in Northampton was a kind of more traditional theatre space, so you could be slightly distant from it and watch it, whereas here, at the Everyman, you're very much involved and surrounded by the piece. So straight away on that first night, it felt like you had a few hundred people kind of in it with you. And it does feel like people are going on the journey with us quite a bit. And I'm not going to give away any of the ending, but it does feel like a lot of the time you really feel the kind of the shock and the disbelief of an audience when it doesn't turn out the way people want it to go. And a lot of the scenes that are kind of rabble-rousing scenes, you kind of feel the audience coming with you, which is great.
Yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of this space at the Everyman, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And as this was originally written for the screen, have there been any challenges working on this now it's been adapted for the stage, or how do you think it's gained?
I think sort of. They're both very different mediums, and they can work very differently. So I think it has been a struggle, a good struggle to transfer it onto a stage. There's a lot of quite short scenes. There's a lot of information, which is easy to convey through film. Not so easy to convey on a stage. So we've concentrated on trying to tell the story as clearly as possible, even through these short episodic scenes. And I think I think it works. I think it works very well.
Ron Hutchinson, our adapter, with our director James Dacre, they've spent about 6 years going through about 40 different manuscripts, because it was never finished, because it was abandoned under political oppression. So they've found a way to make this. And Miller said he wanted to write a play for the screen. That was his whole idea. So they've put together these 40 odd scripts to make a really exciting piece of theatre, I think. So it's finally getting a life. And here, of all places, it's great.
So in terms of your preparation for the role, obviously there's loads of really exciting background to this piece. How much of that was helpful to you?
It's a funny thing with research, because you don't want to get too bogged down in it, but because it's so fascinating as well. This particular the kind of someone was saying there's a whole other play to be written about the story of this.
I would agree,
completely. But it is useful, especially the kind of the things I find really useful is the kind of the facts of daily life. Kind of looking at how much, if we were earning $2 an hour, how much a beer would cost, or a loaf of bread, and how much rent would be, and those kind of research facts I think really help, because you're thinking, wow, I've done a day's work and I can kind of just about get by if I was working full time. But a lot of the time these guys would work, well, my character says I didn't get 3 days work in 2 weeks, So you kind of realise the reality of the debt they're in, and the difficulty to make ends meet. And I think that kind of research I find really useful.
How has it been different playing in this space? Because obviously very different to Northampton.
Yeah, well, it was weird to start with. We had to do quite a lot of reblocking because obviously all the sight lines are very different here. So in Northampton, it was a prosage, so the audience are just seeing one point of view, but they've got 3 points of view here, so you have to adjust.
Yeah.
And it becomes a technical exercise to start with, but then very quickly you forget about that and you can start playing.
Yeah, and
playing
a
play
great
again.
opportunity, I guess, to show those different
Yeah,
perspectives.
and also what a treat to be in the brand new Everyman.
Yeah.
And it's just, we love it. It's fantastic. What a brilliant space.
I think this would be a fascinating thing to do just from a historical point of view, as anyone that's ever kind of interested in theatre or Miller, but it seems hugely prescient in a way that's quite saddening, that nothing has really changed, and the same issues that these guys are worried about, job security and workers' rights are really prevalent, and and even stuff like we couldn't believe it with the whole FIFA corruption and Sepp Blatter happening right in the middle of it, and vote rigging and all that. It felt so strangely prescient. So we've been quite lucky in terms of historical things happening during our production.
It's a roller coaster of a play. You've seen it yourself. Like
Yeah,
it goes at a real pace, and there's things going on all the time. It's quite exciting, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Not at all. Thanks very much. Cheers.
The Hook is a co-production with Royal and Dengate Northampton and runs at the Everyman until the 25th of July. Also in Liverpool this month, the Globe is bringing Romeo and Juliet to Calderstones Park, and the National Theatre bring their award-winning show, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, to the Empire. Thanks for watching Arts Alive Theatre. I'm Stephanie Greer. See you next time.